What's going on, moms and dads? You are listening to the latest episode of the Fade You podcast. We are recording on a beautiful Wednesday afternoon, May 10th, 2023. Fade You podcast is the sports betting show for the everyday bettor. Whether you're a total degen firing playoff hockey, playoff basketball, Major League Baseball, whatever, or you're just looking for a little action, we're glad you're here checking out our show. Whether you're new or have been here for a while with us, we appreciate you and we're glad you're here with us today. We are live on YouTube right now. If you're watching or if you happen to catch our YouTube channel, please give those videos a like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you catch this later in our podcast form, please subscribe to the pod. Tell your friends to subscribe to the pod and check out our YouTube. We got the link in the podcast description. My name is Matthew James. Chris Duke is here with me. Chris, how are you doing, Dad? It looks like last time we potted, the mustache was a big hit, and now it looks like you're filling in elsewhere around there. It looks good, Dad.
Still letting it go, get thicker. I'm gonna mess with it, and got a fresh cut today, so it's good. I'm on some poopy shit right now. The under and the Heat game, they clanked the first quarter, and then I'm on. I don't know why, like Dave said in our talking beforehand, we don't know why the Cardinals are favored, but maybe this is why Montgomery just walked the bases loaded. So we'll see if he can get out of this jam.
So Chris, let the cat out of the bag. We've got a guest on the show today. We've been wanting to have Dave on an episode really not related to anything other than just a couple guys talking sports. So Dave Rogers here at Picks from Dave on Twitter. Dave, thanks for joining the Fade You pod. How are you doing, Dad?
Thanks for having me. I am fantastic. Excited to be here. We've talked about this for a while. It's been a while since I've been on. I think it was on a football season or something. And it's been a while since Chris and I, which I think we'll talk about a little bit, have done much. But that's going to change here coming up. But thanks for having me. And, let's talk some sports.
I like the tease there. That's great. So let's get right into it. Do you want to just sort of plug your stuff that you've got going on? One reason I wanted to have Dave on is because we've both been trying to grow through YouTube. And that's really kind of been our, with no knowledge of how to do this in the last year, we've been trying to get the YouTube channel going, get promoted through YouTube, have our shows live via YouTube. So do you want to plug your stuff that you guys have going on?
Yeah. So, it's exact same story. I stumbled into, since Facebook, I went to college I went to college when Facebook started. I went to college on the West Coast. We were one of the first schools to get it. We know the whole story, the movie you saw, I went to one of those schools, and that was my first exposure to social media. It was super cool because it was chicks on spring break and all that kind of stuff. And then it became moms and their kids and what they're eating for dinner. So I despised social media for so long, but I've loved gambling and, playing cards and sports betting. I've done that all my life. Started putting a capping system together in 2015 for NFL. It's expanded since then, but I had never would I ever have gotten on YouTube or Twitter. I didn't care about sharing picks and all of that. I stumbled upon a contest where you had to have a Twitter page. You had to do videos. Did that contest, didn't win it. I'm glad I didn't win it for other reasons, and decided to stay because A, I enjoyed doing it, but B, I wanted to show it done the right way, and I wanted to see how far I could get organically. So I've done it for about a year and a half. Picks from Dave on YouTube and Twitter. Twitter's going good. I'm where I think I should be. YouTube is such a grind. It's horror, and it's hard to promote YouTube through anything else but YouTube. But I do pick videos every night. I do a pick show once or twice a week. I do a show with Chris. Trying to get that going again, but it is tough. So hats off to you guys from doing it from like grassroots style, because I'm not buying subs and playing that game, and so that's that.
It's a hard space to be in because so many accounts do that. So many accounts will buy followers, buy subscribers, and take the shortcuts. And unfortunately, people who do that can kind of rise to the top, where those of us who are trying to grow it organically, I love that point that you made, and do it the right way, can kind of get left behind. But it's a grind, like you said. And for us here at Fade You, this is something we had talked about for a while. And then when the pandemic hit in 2020, we're like, well, we got a lot of time on our hands. Like, let's get it going, boys. Like, let's get some mics and let's learn how to podcast. Let's learn how to host a podcast online and how to show up on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So, I mean, for me, as an English major in college, I didn't know how to do any of this shit. And so part of the fun is kind of teaching yourself how to do it and being like, all right, this is something I had no idea how it worked. And I'd like to think, we're 200 or so episodes in. We've done a pretty nice job. So hats off to you too. And we got it up. I mean, Turtle Sports, our boys. So shout out to all the guys out there guys and girls who are grinding away and just trying to make it, because it's a crowded space and it's really hard to separate yourself. But Chris, what do you want to add to that as maybe our most famous character here, Hammer Poop?
No, yeah, it's fun. It's awesome too. Like, it shows you that you can grow, organically. It's awesome that we meet people like Dave and stuff like that. And I know I've met people coming on his, when he does the random like watch parties, or he used to just host a show where, hey, let's all get together and talk pick each other's brains and what do we like this weekend? What are we looking at in college football and pro football, NFL. So, and it was awesome. And, we did a lot of winners, and it's awesome when you get guys that really care about stuff. And you come together and you kind of pick, they bring up some certain things at an angle you weren't looking at. And it, can either put you on a side or take you off it. And that's our goal here, right? Like everyone says, like our goal is to just like try to be 54%, 53.8%, try to like win against the book, because it's really hard. Most people want to just go for fun and bet on their team. I'd like to think all of us, we kind of, besides Dave, when it comes to SC, because all he does is bet SC. I'm just kidding.
Not true.
I'm just kidding. No, we put our money where our wallets are. We don't, we leave our hearts out of it. So it's fun stuff.
Dave, do you want to respond to Chris's little dig there on fandom?
Yeah, no, absolutely. We talk about this all the time. Well, it's kind of hard to root for Fresno State. So it's like, it's easy to bet against them. But I will say this. So, and then maybe we could talk about how I met Chris too, because that's a funny story. But if you can't bet against your team, I don't respect you as a handicapper. I don't say this, I'm just not betting, and I've heard this, I'm just not going to bet the game. If you're leaving money on the table and you're not betting your team, I almost got arrested in a Lamppost Pizza in January in 2006 for throwing a beer mug that almost hit a child because Vince Young ran into the end zone to win the game in the Rose Bowl. So I know about being a fan, okay? But I know that what I care more about than anything, what I care about more than fandom is money. And also winning, beating the books, because they don't give a shit about you. Casinos and books, they don't. So if you can't bet against your team, you can't bet against USC's, and I'm on the Lakers too, and I'm a Lakers fan. It just so happens this year that my teams I can bet on. But I've bet on USC against USC more the past 3 or 4 years than I bet on them. That's for damn sure.
And that's a testament to you, because absolutely, Matt and I have like texted each other, Matt, 500 times about LOL Lakers when they're like laying 6 at home or whatever. And now they're actually a sharp side right now. Everyone's on Warriors, everyone. And so when you're heading late and everyone's on over, and we just keep cashing on the under, mostly because Mush keeps taking over. But, so that it's great. You have to be malleable. We've said it for years. It's a thing with Fade You, be malleable. Pick, you just don't just be stuck to one or the other. And the Lakers are a sharp side right now because the public are taking the champs. We'll see about in the next round if they go against Denver. That might change. Maybe everyone thinks the Lakers are fired. Maybe joking. Maybe Joker's the sharp side. So we'll see.
Man, the Lakers. I mean, there's always value in fading them, right? It's the Lakers, it's LeBron. There's always value in fading SC teams like the Yankees. Like, God, I mean, we can. That's our bread and butter, right, Chris? Is finding the overvalued teams, the really hyped teams, and Dodgers, right? From the past few years, Dodgers are minus 250 again. So I love that. And that is a hard thing we talked about on our show for years now, is being able to bet against your team. I mean, it's so important. So I'm glad you said that, Dave. And it's true. You just have to set aside the fandom. You want to put all your teams in a parlay and you think that's fun, that's fine. But, when you hit 2 out of 3 legs, it's not so fun. So, all right. Go ahead, Dave. What were you going to say?
No. I'm just looking to see. We were talking about the Dodgers. I didn't bet it. I've been betting the Dodgers year fee just about every game, even when all their good pitchers are in, and it's been hitting.
Any reason for that?
Yeah, because the pricing. I mean, the Nerfy was a cool thing until it got popular. The first 5 bet is still a good thing. It's gonna become a bad. The needle always comes back the other way. It's time to start figuring out how to bet the first 7 innings. It's time to. I mean, you only get a little window. So now the year fees is thing. Now you're getting better numbers with the year fees, and usually the value is there when you have 2 really good pitchers, because there's no way that Garrett Cole and Shohei Ohtani aren't going to give up a run in the first inning. If you're getting plus money, hell yeah, I'm taking the year fee. And the Dodgers just been a trend. It didn't it today, but I've noticed it, and I think it's kind of backing off because now you're getting some negative numbers for the year fee, or it's more juice numbers. But I'm here to find edges. I tried to find edges in XFL this year. It worked for the first couple weeks, and the books corrected. The year fee right now, the Dodgers year fee is an edge right now. Probably not for much longer, though.
It's a great point, because you have an edge until it gets popular, and everybody starts doing it, and now your edge is gone because the books adjust. So it's a great point. Like the Nerfy, yeah, that thing just took off like crazy. I remember when, Chris, you'll remember this, when the first period overs in hockey a couple years ago. Remember they had the follow the money 5, right? And that got really popular for a while, and then the prices adjust. So it's definitely good to find that little avenue, whether it's XFL, AFL, whatever the fuck FL, and just capitalize on it until that edge is gone. So it like you said, small window. But we got to get into this. So, all right, Nerd and the Turd. So what, as someone who's known Chris for a long time and is looking at him here right now and knowing how he is, what did you see in this man that you said, that's the guy? I need him. And then Nerd and the Turd started, like, you got to tell the story of how did you meet Chris and what did you see in Chris that made you bring him on board? Okay,
so it's not even on board. I had to have this guy in my life somehow. So I was on Twitter, and you get in the vortex, and you're just scrolling down, and on my feed was this man in his car in the parking lot to go to work in his smock with a piece of paper on it with pics, doing a pic video talking about poop. And on the other side of the piece of paper, it was used. It was like instructions or something for something. I mean, it was totally the gankiest ass situation you've ever had. And I'm an 11-year-old inside, so I thought it was the funniest thing I'd ever seen. If you haven't seen it, I just posted on Fade You. I play it on all the shows I have. I have a clip of it in StreamYard. So it took me a while to get him integrated, but we started talking, and then I did my Nerd Talk show. Then we came up with the Nerd and the Turd concept, and the Turd is because if you look at this video at the bottom, it says hammer poop, and it's got a little animation of a pile of turd with flies and steam coming off of it. Can we see it? Yes, that's
Kinda.
it. Yeah,
and it doesn't show because of my lighting, but you can see the Home Depot logo on the other side. So it's like Chris's paper for work that he just drew on the back of.
Yeah. So that's where it was. And then we came up with the concept of the Nerd and the Turd, because I always call people nerds, like, hey, what's up, nerd? That was my thing. My show was Nerd Talk. His was Hammer Poop. Nerd and the Turd came up. And it was a great show. The problem is I'm not sure if it was the timing. It was on Friday nights, which I thought would have been a good time. It didn't really get traction. We had our same 20 to 30 people that would watch, but it way underperformed compared to my live streams. I just think people they thought it was funny. And the angle was this: I'm more of a traditional capper. Chris is a very unconventional capper. He looks for things that don't make sense. I look for things that make sense. So when you put the two together, the whole point was to have, sort of this yin and yang thing. It just didn't pop. So we need to find another iteration. I want to have Chris I know he's a busy guy. I want to have him on my live streams that we do. But that show hasn't been canned. It's been put on the shelf, and we're thinking about what to do.
We're like the Eagles. We didn't disband. We're just taking a little break.
Yeah.
Well,
No,
okay,
great.
Chris. I mean, I don't. People who listen to us will know this, but maybe there's new people on. So, I mean, hammer poop, like the steaming pile of poop that you drew on your work paperwork. Why poop? Why do you have to? Why are you the way that you are?
It's funny. I mean, even my wife, who like never has bet a game and probably never will in her whole life, even though it was funny when we met. Like, she'd be like, "Who's supposed to win?" I remember. I'm like, "This team." She's like, "Who's the dog?" Like, I don't know how she knew that term. And she was like, "Yeah, let's cheer for the dogs." And I don't know, it's just fun, and it's amazing to see year in and year out. Like, so you think like maybe something would change throughout sports, like maybe like, the books would make less smelly lines, but it's like year in and year out, it never ceases to amaze me how disgusting lines can be. Like, for instance, Matt, you and I talked about last night, the Kraken line. It's been flying over. It went 9-6, 9, now again 9. I feel like I'm fucking in that movie 999. That's all they keep scoring. But what do the books make it? 5.5, and it's just like, it's amazing. And same with this Cardinals one. By the way,
I was going to say the Cardinals game is such a great example of the way Chris thinks, because they are, and Chris, he's Twitter at hazmatsuit23 if people aren't following. Chris looks at the baseball slate for today, and he's like, all right, the almost worst in the entire National League Cardinals at 13-24 are favored on the road against a team with a better record. And so most people would look at that. Casual bettors would look at that and be like, oh my God, I don't even have to. I can bet against the shitty Cardinals at plus money or at even money or whatever.
With
now,
Steele on the mound, Steele 5-0 with a 1.45, like a dealing.
There you go. So Chris will look at that and just ask, why is the line the way it is, right, Chris? And that's why you posted your tweet for Cardinals. So that's hammer poop in a nutshell.
Yeah, and I mean, and I like Dave, and I thank Dave for introducing me to so many cool people. Like the Earl Sports guys are awesome, and they always support. And then a couple of them, I think it's Tim more than Nick.
Yeah, Tim's your boyfriend.
Yeah, Tim's like my poopy. Like, literally, if Poop had twins, we'd be like bloop bloop right next to each other. But then, like Kelly too. Even Kelly in Vegas. Like, I got like so excited yesterday because I've been wanting to hammer the under with the Suns Nuggets. They've been flying over. We're talking, would that game go a couple games, like 255, and they lowered it. Vegas lowered from 228 to 227. Of course, I did it yesterday. It went like, it landed like 215 or 220. It went way under, it's like, just look for stuff like that. And that's what, I don't know. So, I mean, it's nice to even see people with Barstool with a couple 100,000 followers. She's my poopy sister. Kelly knows to bet the poop.
And shout out Adam. Adam's always on. Adam Trigger's always on disgusting stuff. Yeah. He's had a couple brutal beats lately. Oh my
Actually,
God.
Speaking of that, I think I did see my email. I think he did. He's on cards too, right? So shout out to him for putting on his hazmat suit today with me.
That's right. So Dave, you talked about your handicapping system. You said it started with NFL back several years ago. So what does this time of year look like for you? I mean, are you making, what sports are you making numbers for? How are you deciding what to fire? This time of the year is interesting because, people are, March Madness ended a little while ago, and people kind of dabble in betting playoffs, but that can be hard game to game in a series. And baseball is just such a long season. I don't know that a lot of people are jumping in this early. So what's this time of year like for you?
So I'm a type of guy that wants action all the time. So I've taken on, I always try to take on new sports. So this season was NHL. And I came from the generation, our generation, when we wanted to watch sports. We watched ESPN. Sports Center came on at 28 and 58 after the hour, then 15, 30, 45. That we knew when to watch it, and you had to watch all the sports. And then there was baseball tonight, and there was a hockey show. There, that's how we got our information. And we knew the teams, like the great Detroit Red Wings teams and all that, and Brodeur on the Devils and all that. When the internet came out, I could pick and choose what I wanted to watch. It's like when you go to P-Hub, you get to choose what category you like, right? It's same thing. the same thing with sports. The thing is that there's so many people I knew that got into hockey, and I love watching hockey. Didn't know any of the players or anything, so I jumped into it. But why I got off on this rant is I've picked up sports since then. So I do both footballs, both basketballs. I do baseball, and NHL, and now XFL is something else. But I always want to have action, and I always want to find edges. And NFL is my favorite sport to watch, my favorite sport to cap. It's my least profitable. And by the way, if you say it's your most profitable and it's the only sport you cap, you're a liar. The edges are so tight. The money is so big. That's why you need to go find things like college basketball and bet on St. Peter's unders all season. That's what you need to go do, because there's less money on it. And they don't care as much. Are they still smarter than you? Well, maybe not them, but they have an algorithm that is. But it's not as good as the one for the Kansas, UConn game or whatever. MLB is another one. So this time of year I really like. I'm betting the NBA. I'm mostly doing videos and putting in bets for places I like, but people want to see NBA playoff content. So that's what I do my videos on. I don't give out a play that I don't bet. And I don't give all my plays either. Everyone thinks, oh, you're betting 3. No, I bet about 15 to 20 bets a day. Those might be available in the future in different ways. But this time of year, up till right now, is my favorite time for baseball, because no one would have thought how good the Rays. If you were on the Rays future, I don't bet futures, I don't tie up my money. You went from a big plus money to now they're the favorite. I think it's a negative number, or not a big enough shot. So MLB right now has been really good. It's time to adjust. The books have adjusted. It's time to take less dogs now than it was the first 2 months. But I'm doing baseball. Baseball is my longest cap. There's just so much information to go over, and I have different systems and sites and all that I look at. Hockey, I have kind of in the way back burner. If I like a spot, I'll do something. And basketball is, it's really, really tight too. This is the playoffs and the championship. I know it's when the money comes in, when the handle comes in, but it's not your best angle. So MLB is my main focus until football comes out.
So what are some of the things you talk about how you sort of bet from the nerd perspective, right? So what are some of the things that are you talking props? Are you talking sides? Are you talking first 5 bets? Like what are some of the things that you look at for people that are like baseball, but are so overwhelmed by the information that's out there and don't know where to start?
So I would say, first of all, if you're starting the bet, if you aren't capping other sports and you have no knowledge of capping, don't start with something you don't like. And if you don't like baseball, even don't start with that. Start with NFL like I did. You don't have to force it. A lot of people don't bet MLB because they don't like it and don't want to watch it. So I don't bet something you can't stand to watch. I don't bet WNBA because I don't watch WNBA, and I'm not going to. But people do. But back to baseball. You always start with a pitcher. And you can decide how you want to go. I mean, a lot of people are doing first 5s, and I tell people to do first 5s because it's like a science experiment. You get rid of as many variables as you can, and you boil it down to, fewer variables. It's basically you can get it down with the first 5 team total to one pitcher and one lineup, and there's really nothing else in it except that there's a crazy error or something that you can't get into. But you start with a pitcher. And you can get real square with it. Start with the top 20 pitchers and find out where, what teams they pitch well against, what situations they pitch well against. There are plenty of sites. Fangraphs is one of them. That's the Bible pretty much, where you can narrow down stats. You can do, it's also baseball, by the way. Another little secret is it's a game of what have you done for me lately? Only look at the past 2 weeks. Don't look at the whole season for stats. Figure out what the stats are. I mean, don't look at what there's all sorts of different ways you can do it, but start with a pitcher, start with a small sample size, start with a team, start with a division, and go that way. But start with a pitcher. That's what you start with.
Chris, what do you think? I mean, you want to piggyback on that for just there's a million you can look at day-night splits. You can look at home road splits. I know what's one that Ariel talks about. She always talks about pitchers K-props when they haven't pitched in Coors Field before, stuff like. I mean, you can just go as down the rabbit.
You want a K-prop? You want a K-prop thing that people don't look at? And this is from a guy that only bets K-props and is the best K-prop guy I know. Shout out to Sharpie. Sharpie's bets. If you don't know him, go check him out. He looks at walk rate instead of K rate for a team, because a walk rate shows you if they have a low walk rate, they have a propensity to not work the pitcher. That means they're swinging and trying to put things in play. They're aggressive, which means they're going to strike out. And also that pitcher is going to pitch less pitches to them. So look at the walk rate.
That's a good tip.
Nice. Yeah, I was just going to bring up Ariel too. Yeah, she looks at all that. Yeah, against right. I mean, you can bring up the whole right. How do they hit? Against righties? How do they hit against lefties? We saw the Twins a couple of years ago. They were just beasts against lefties, and so every time or maybe righties, and so every time a righty's up, they would kill them. But yeah, and I look at the picture too. I mean, like I didn't just blindly bet the Cards tonight because the line was stinky just based off. Which, by the way, I think they just blew the lead, but whatever, it's a tight game. I didn't just go, oh, the line smells. I looked, I feel, okay, Montgomery, like, yes, his record is 2-4. A lot of people just look, man, he's 2-4. The record in baseball, like, is probably the most meaningless stat you could look at. Like, the record means jack shit. I mean, he's got a 3 ERA. That's better than, like, 90% of pitchers. Most time it's 4 or 5. And then you look at Steele, and so like he's decent, like he's pitching well, and Steele's probably overachieving. Like it's hard as shit to have a 1.45 ERA through like 6 or 7 games, whatever he's pitching. So you just look at that; it's the same as any other sport. Like there's going to be a little regression involved. There's probably a little inflated because they're in Chicago, and look at the record. So yeah, but for sure, look at the pitchers and see what they're we have Matt, you and I laughed. I mean, we've done it right. We've straight up faded. I mean, Corbin was a dead fade the last like 36 to 48 months. I mean, he's pitching a little better this year, but there's a time where, and same with what do we do? Cobb, and there's another one. Like there's these.
You love Cobb. Yeah.
Cobb when he was on the
Keuchel, Dallas Keuchel.
Keuchel when he was on his 7 ERA stretch. Like, dude, if you got guys that are struggling like that. Like that's the cool thing about baseball. There's so many games. You can't do that. You can't do that in football. There's 16, 17 games. Baseball, these guys are pitching every, 4th, 5th game. You can just keep riding that wave for a whole month or two. And so, yeah, find what's good. And like you said, Matt, earlier, hopefully you found it early, ride it until it's done, and then jump off,
Shout out Matt Harvey and that Orioles run from a couple years ago, right?
Another one. Oh, dear God.
Dark night.
With the team total. When it's only 4.5, they score 6, pull them after 3. You're good.
Yeah. That's Joe. I'm sure at some point, after everything, the dust settles a little bit, we'll get Joe on. We'll get Joe's scum list or whatever he does halfway through the year, and see who we can maybe fade the rest of the way. So. You talked about baseball being something you're really into right now. At what point do you turn your attention to NFL? Do you do summer prep for the NFL? I think the schedule is supposed to come out like tomorrow, right?
Yeah. So I I look at the schedule. I had the benefit of, and I still will do. Part of my prep was to do as many NFL preseason shows on different people's channels. It's another thing too. I try to get on everyone's channel, get in with people because it helps me cap. It's selfish. It's not that I have a face for radio, but the thing that I really want to do is I want to get people's opinions, and I want other people DMing me. I want that exposure that way. So I'll do shows probably in late July. So when they start, or mid-July.
Training camp time, kind of reporting.
Yeah. We'll talk about it.
Yeah.
I won't really bet. I will bet. I will bet some preseason games. I don't really give a shit about it, but a lot of times with the NFL, XFL is the same way as preseason. You need to bet it as a square. Don't try to outthink it. The line's moving. Take the way the line's moving. Don't go the other way. It's usually that obvious in the NFL preseason. At least my experience has been that way. But I really start getting into it when I start putting the money together for Circa. In August. And I would say I'll have a good 2 weeks for that first game. I'll have a good 2 weeks of study time. But I don't sit and guys that don't bet the MLB or don't bet W and don't have something to do, soccer, something to do during the summer. That's all I think about. Doesn't mean they're any better than people that don't do it. In fact, some of them are worse. A lot of them are worse. But I don't sit and daydream about football season. It's usually a couple weeks ahead of time to answer your question.
Nice. Yeah. Chris, what else you got for Dave?
I just want to know when we can nerd and turd it again, or what. I want to hang out again.
Well, we're gonna figure it out. We're having a lot of not a lot of success, but more success with the live shows. Like we had Nerd Talk, right? And that kind of fizzled out. I think with this live streaming games became a thing in the past 8 months that a lot of channels are doing. And we're doing it, and we're kind of throwing in some other stuff. Like, I don't think you've met Nick's roommate, Jacob. You guys
see the epic like redneck?
He's the guy that ate the hummus. That guy. So we're trying to throw in some fun shit along with it. He's a Capitals fan. Yeah. So you've
Yeah, I met that guy. He was having a Budweiser. He's like, yeah, that's fucking good.
Yeah, we need you on that more. But Nerd and the Turd needs a place. It's just we got so busy, and I think Friday night was a bad spot. It's not dead. I'm telling you, it's not dead. It's too good to be dead.
No, it was good, and like you said, the whole thing is to balance off each other. There were weeks when you went 3-1 and I went 1-2, or I go.
Oh, our record was horrible.
But let's pick it up. Well, like you said, you're posting 3 plays, and you've got 10 on the day. Of course, your other 7 go, 5-2, but the Nerd and the Turd went 1-2. So
I was on some of the best streaks I've had in a long time, and I literally went 0-3 and 0-3 back-to-back weeks. And I will say, you remember your losses more than your wins, but I've never remembered more of some heartbreaking losses, like that Army-Navy game. Give me a break. Give me a break. They didn't score a touchdown all game. Boom. Second play into it's fucking disgusting.
You had one where it was like a point total over. I think someone you took like over 12.5. They had 2 free throws and missed them both. Then they pulled him. He like never scored another. Or it was a point. Might have been Bam Adebayo or something like that.
Yeah.
And we're like, are you fucking kidding me? Like,
yeah.
It was like 6 minutes left. Never again. It's like just weird shit like that.
Yeah, tragic stuff. But you know what? That's sports betting, and people don't see when you have those shows and those records that you're betting every day, especially people that post their records. That if you're concentrating on that small, I mean, you really need to be able to look at a good sample size of someone's results. You need about 1,000 bets, which some people don't even do that in a year. So one day 3 picks ain't gonna do it. But Nerd and the Turd ain't dead. We're gonna beef it up a little bit because I've kind of learned that, and just sitting there talking about sports, we need to talk about these things like poop and we need to make it fun. We need to watch people eat hummus and talk. One of the things we're doing is we call it Jacob's Playtime, and we have him read out of the Urban Dictionary. So he has a dictionary. He's not reading out of a dictionary, but it's looking like, because we all know what the Urban Dictionary is. Yeah. And one day we went around and we put our names and the word dirty in front of it. So it was Dirty Dave and Dirty Nick. And we had a segment just being gross. And I know that's kind of like sophomoric and all that, but it's hard to drone on for hours or even 30 minutes without, breaks. And that's what I want to go for. With a name like the Nerd and the Turd, we have to have some comedy and some fun,
Yeah. And we'll
got to bring the toilet humor for sure. You got to have Chris's. Maybe you get Chris to draw more. Maybe we let the world see Chris's artistic side a little more. I don't know, Chris.
Do you remember on one of my shows, Chris it was it was really, really hot, and he didn't have AC in the room that he was in. So he went to his car, and he had a beer. He's sitting in his car on his phone with a beer in his hand because he has the AC on, and he buckled his seatbelt. He's not going anywhere. He's in his car with his AC on, but he's got a beer and he has a seatbelt buckled. And I'm like, oh, that guy must have had great parents and responsible parents. But that's the kind of shit I want to see. That's what I miss.
Yeah, my
so
apartment was hot as shit. I'm like, Dave, I'm gonna run up to my car and pump this AC real quick. You're like, by all means, brother.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So we will all look forward to the return of the nerd and the turd. In the meantime, Dave, where can people get the YouTube channel? What do they search for? How do they find you?
Type in pics from Dave. I'm surprised everywhere it's open. Twitter, YouTube. I also have an Instagram I've never posted on, but I snagged that name. I hate social media, man, but you got to do it in this game. So that's what we're doing. But pics from Dave every night, pick videos. There's something for everyone there. I do a video at least once a day. So
love it. Well, Dave, thanks for coming on. We will have to get you back on later in baseball season as football is starting to ramp up and see what other crazy shit we can get into and bet on and talk about and hopefully figure out the return of the nerd and the turd. Look forward to that.
Well, thanks. I definitely thanks for having me now. I'll come back whenever you want. And by the time I come back, the Phoenix will have risen from the ashes. Trust me.
Love it.
From the poopy
Absolutely
ashes.
Can't wait. All right. Thanks to Dave. Everybody make sure subscribe to the pod, subscribe to the YouTube channel, give us a follow. And Chris, it's fitting to end this way. Remind everybody what happens sometimes when you bet on poop.
You might bet on the Panthers, who should have never even made the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs, and come up with a win and maybe sweep the old. Is my beard longer than a Maple Leafs playoff beard ever has been? I don't know.